Okay, so welcome to my container gardening. I just want to show you my garden, late July 2020. And just, you don't have to have a big property to have vegetable garden. All of the plants are in containers. And so let me just show you my garden. Now this first one is my potato beds. Both these are my potato beds, and it's time to harvest them. You see they're getting time to harvest. And let's move right along to my strawberries there, and I put those hoops over there and cover it because the little squirrels used to eat all my strawberries, but not anymore. But now the strawberries are all gone, so it's okay. The next one is kale, and it's kind of struggling, but it's okay. And onions, and it's time for those to be harvested too. In the back over there, I've already taken down the snow peas, and I practice what they call chop and drop. So what you see there is I've chopped it down and dropped it, and I've also planted some more peas in front of it, so it's going to go up on the trellis. So that's, that will be later on. And then as we go along, you see eggplants, 2 eggplants, and as you can see, they're on 2 bamboo poles, and I tie them to secure them, so when they get bigger, they can be alright. And what I do here I'm in Washington State, and we have about, at least here, leaf miners. This is Swiss chard, so I cover it with a fine mesh. It's like a veil or a tule, they call it, so the little flies or whatever can't lay their eggs, so the leaf miners don't eat my vegetable. So the Swiss chard are doing great. It's time to harvest those too. Right here is bean pole with different beans. It's I think it's Kentucky Wonder, and it goes up the trellis. And a tomato plant, and you can see they're all in containers. So you can do gardening in containers. This here, these winter squash are on the cattle panel, and these are I think butternut squash. Yes. And as you can see, what I've done is I put like some more of those veils, or tule, they call it tule. So as they grow, there's something to support them, so it won't be too heavy. And it goes all the way down. And so it grows all the way down, but then what I do is I turn it back up. So let me back out a little bit. It goes down, and I turn back up so it can go back around, because it'll just go to the ground. And these are two volunteer tomato plants. I have no idea what kind of tomato plants they are. I didn't have the heart to kill them, so I just let them grow. In the back is one cabbage. You have to cover them, because if not, the little flies, those beautiful little butterflies, will lay their eggs and have cabbage worms in there. So that's why I cover it. Another potato plant there. This pot with a potato, it was one potato left in the back of my cupboard. It was growing, so I figured I'd put it in the pot and let it grow, and it's growing. Moving right along, this is a potato plant here in a big bucket. Oh, also right here, that bucket right there, it has the cucumbers going up the vine, all the way up on the vine. And what I do, because I grow in containers, I don't let them grow wild, I cut them back to like 2 or 3 main vines, so they don't overgrow their pots. The potato, I put bamboo stakes in there and tie them so they don't flop all over the place, so they kind of grow straight up. And you can see the flowers, potato flowers, and I just, yeah. And right here is yellow wax beans. It had a rough start with the slugs, but it's hanging in there, and I had to put, what I do is organic gardening, so there's no pesticide or anything like that. So what I do is I get the bowl right there and put bear in it, and the slugs go into the bear and they drown. Here, these 3 main pots here had potatoes in there, but I've already harvested the potatoes. So what I put in there now is peppers. So the first row is Anaheim peppers. The second row is cayenne pepper. And they're doing great. And in here, you also see the chop and drop. So whenever I cut like onions, the leaves, I put it in there so it can decompose right there and, you know, nourish the plant. I have 2 yellow crookneck squash growing because it's you know, second harvest. Here we have, I think this is dumpling squash, I think. Sweet dumpling squash. And it's going to grow up the pole. And I'm going to, you know, put rope around it to keep it contained. And it's going to grow over the rope, but for now, that's what it is. Oh, and these are the buckets, the Lister buckets. I don't know what to do with them, so I just put them there for right now. Moving right along. This is my second harvest of lettuce. So I successional plant lettuce. The back row is, I did it like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks, and then a week ago. And then the first row I just planted lettuce, so I always have lettuce coming. Onions, when I buy my onion sets, I get it into like 100 package, you know, those little sets, and I can't fit 100 in there, so I put them in there, and the leftovers, I put them in here and use them as spring onions, and you can see it's kind of overgrown. And so it's time to harvest the onions. You can see they're getting, all this area here, I've already harvested those, so now I'm waiting for them to get bigger so I can start harvesting. These are getting big. Okay, and then here, my raspberry bush, it has produced a lot of raspberries, and every day I get a handful of raspberries, but it's, you know, it's towards the end of July, so so it's getting less raspberries. And here's a trellis that I made for my different winter squash. Yeah. So I have 2 types of squash growing in here. I'm putting on squash and a different squash called, I don't remember the name of it, but I'll put it up when I remember the name. It's from Baker Creek Seed Company. I've got to remember the name. And and you can see the pots are big. Beside it is watermelon. And over here, this is interesting because I had a different watermelon growing. It was not doing good, so I planted honeydew melon in there, and then the watermelon started doing great. So I got honeydew melon and watermelon. And so, as I said, because in smaller container pots, I don't let them just grow and grow and grow. I cut them down to 1 vine. So as I get a fruit growing, then I'll cut off the growing tip, so the plant just put all its energy into growing that fruit. So then I made this trellis here, so the honeydew melon can grow up on this trellis here. And you see I have three main vines, and the rest I cut back, and then 1 watermelon vine there. And if it's too much for the pot, then I'll cut another vine off, but you know, that's the way I get some harvest instead of no harvest at all. And then turn around and we have corn. Let's see. And I did successional planting of corn. The taller corn, let me move around here so you can see better. No, let's see. The taller corn, I planted them like, well, 3 months ago, maybe. And these are from seeds that I've saved from last year. And then the pots are huge, and they're growing pretty well. And then I planted some more later, like a month later. So as these get big and I harvest them, then these will, you know, it's time for these to be harvested. So that way I don't get inundated with a lot of the corn or a lot of stuff to be processed. And then what I did, I'm not sure if it's too late or not, I planted some beans right there so it can grow up the corn, but I'm not sure if I did it too late or not, but we'll see. And then you can tell my grass is dead because it hasn't rained here for the last 2 months. Here in Washington State, it's just been dry. Here is a Kushoff squash. There are 2 in there. And again, I'm waiting for a fruit to come on the vine. And then I'll probably cut the growing tip so it just focus on that 1 or 2 Kushoff so it can go ahead and grow and have a fruit. And it's going to take up this whole space here. Now, that's mint, peppermint. And I planted some yellow wax beans again. And you can see the tule there to cover it. That way, when I plant the seeds, the rabbits or squirrels don't dig it up. And I took them off when it's fine. This one is a fig tree. And I have not been having much luck growing okra here. Each year I try and it just, doesn't work out for me. It gets too cold here or too wet or whatever. But hopefully I planted this really early. Hopefully I get at least 1 okra or 2 okra. We will see. Oh, and you can see in my garden I put down the fabric, the woven weave fabrics to cut down the weeding, because if not, this whole area will be all grass, and so this really helps. Now this is, you can tell this is having a rough time. This is rutabaga, and so the bugs are really having a good time on it. But I've harvested some. It still tastes good. Right there with the fabric over it is beets, but the leaf miners has been really at it. So what I've decided to do is cut the leaves with all the leaf miners in there and cover it, and hopefully there's no more leaf miners there so it can actually get a chance to grow. If not, I'll take it all out and start all over again and replant, beets from seed and cover it right away. This is a tomato, a dwarf tomato, 2 eggplants, and these are peppers, jalapeno and bell peppers. Another fig, and more jalapeno. Bell pepper, and over here, let me show you real quick. And don't look at my grass. Yes, it's dead. Yes, so this one here, it's what is this again? Anyway, y'all know what it is. It was a volunteer from last year, and so I wasn't going to have any more because I canned a whole bunch of them, and so I figured I'd let it grow, and it's growing. Y'all probably say it is. She doesn't know what the plant is. I know what the plant. I just can't think of it right now. It's Jeez Louise.
Balloon or something?
Huh?
Balloon or something?
It's not a balloon. I'll put it on there on the screen when I figure it out. I probably remember it when I go around the corner. Okay, so this is the front part of my garden, and so container gardening can work. You just have to have big pots, and these pots I get at the big box stores, and some I get like at the lawn and garden section. They'll give some of them away because customers buy like trees and stuff, and they don't want the pots, so they give the pots away. So let's go check out the garden in the back. Okay, so we're recording again. So the back of the property here, container gardening again. You can see the big containers at the bottom, and these are the fabric containers, 3 in a row. And these are all different types of tomatoes. I think these are, different type of tomatoes. Oh, that's just lemongrass, and that's to be probably gonna be more beets there later on. Anyway, so tomatoes, And you see I put the sticks, the bamboo stake up and stake them to it. And if they get too tall, taller than the stick, I'm just going to top them so they stop growing. Okay. And on this side, there's more squash. And the squash in the front is a volunteer squash. And as I said, I'll let it grow. And the first fruit it produced, because I don't know what they are, what happened was I used some of my compost. And in the compost, I put pumpkins and seeds and stuff, you know, from when I carve out the pumpkins. And some of them are different ones. Anyway, so I'm not sure what kind, because last year I had like maybe 7 different types of pumpkin and winter squash, so I'm not sure what it is. So when they grow, then I see what it is. And beside it here is cucumbers. That's going to grow up the vine. And tomatoes. And here is some more bush beans. And some volunteer squash, which I think this is a butternut squash, I think. But anyway, it's made, we'll see later. Eggplant, and these eggplants are bearing eggplants. You can see there, it's hard to, I'm sure you can see it or not. And more tomatoes. And more beans to go up the trellis. These are, I think these are rattlesnake peas. And these are some more squash, summer squash. And back here is my trellising of sweet potatoes. Oops. And so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 buckets. And then I made a trellis for them to go up to. And some bell peppers over there. And this is another volunteer. I think this is a cucumber. So after it has like a couple of cucumbers, I'll snip the growing tip because I don't need any more cucumbers. I have enough cucumbers. But as I said, it was hard for me to just kind of kill it. And these are the green squash, the green zucchini squash, excuse me. There are two in the bucket, and it's too much for this bucket, you can tell. So I was going to cut one out, but they were producing so well, I didn't know which one to cut out, so I'll let them grow for a while. And I'll probably cut one out later on. These corn right here, the blue corn, blue Hopi corn. Let me back up a second. Let's see. Well, anyway, what I did was, this is when they were younger. I planted some peas in there, so it's going up. The peas are going all the way up the stalk, all the way up, which is good. And here's another volunteer squash, and this one is a butternut squash. And it has a fruit, so I'm going to cut the growing tip. So just focus on that one fruit, because these pots were meant to be corn, not have all the different squashes in it. And let's see. Let me go on this other side because it's kind of. And as I said, the ground is with the fabric, the woven weave fabric. So I cut down on the grass. Go over here. Oops. Spider. Yeah, we get rid of that. Yeah. Okay. So now. And here's another cattle panel arbor here, and I have winter squash going. One is spaghetti squash, and again, what I did was I put the mesh onto the squash, so when it gets bigger, it doesn't hang too much. And I'll put the name of these squashes, because off the top of my head, I can't remember them because it's been a while, and they're growing really nicely. And at the bottom, I was growing garlic. I started really late on the garlic. And some of the garlic, I mean, I'm talking really late, like April. No, March. And I know, anyway, it's too late. So anyway, some volunteer tomatoes popped in and some squash popped in, so I'll let them grow. Yeah. And then one of the volunteer, I took a rope and tied a little, and then tied to the trellis so it could go up the trellis instead of going on the floor. And that's a cucumbers, and I don't need more cucumbers. So after it's the top of the trellis, I probably cut it and just harvest those cucumbers. And let's see what else. Got blackberry bushes, lots of blackberry. And then here, you can see my greenhouse. And the greenhouse is one of the best investment I did. It was not expensive either. I just typed in greenhouse on internet, and I found this one for, I think it was like under $200. And let's take a look inside. What I did was I put the same kind of fabric, a little rope and a little fabric here, the little mesh. So when I go to work, I leave the greenhouse open, but you know, animals cannot, you know, like the neighbor's cat or dogs cannot come in. But we can, so let's go in and take a look. Alright, so I've never grown jicama before. And jicama, I did not realize the vine. So it's going up this pole. I'm not sure how far it's going to go after this, but we're going to find out. And some basil and different herbs here. I have one last volunteer that I put in a pot, and there's no place for it, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. The same thing with the cucumbers here. I put it on the, tied to the top of the trellis, to the top of the greenhouse, and have it grow up. And when it hits the top, I'll snip it, and just, because you can only eat so much cucumbers. Tomatoes. And more tomatoes. And this whole side was cabbage, and I've harvested like 4 of them and I replanted more. So I have a succession of cabbage. I just harvested the last bunch of kale, and I'm going to put carrots in the empty bucket now. And as you can tell, I've been battling the cabbage worms each morning. I come and spray them and find them and smush them. It's been interesting. Some leeks, more sweet potatoes. In the back I had snow peas growing since spring, and that's been harvested. I'm going to plant some more different types of, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to plant in the back, but in the front of it is 3 okras. So it's growing better in the greenhouse, and it's starting to have a flower, so maybe we'll have okra, I'm not sure, and more eggplant. And this greenhouse did not come with a window in the back. I cut it up myself and put Velcro and roll it up, so in the wintertime I'll roll it back down, because without it has windows in the sides, and then obviously the opening in the front, but in the back there's no opening, so on top it's really hot, so I put a window in the top. And it's working really well. Now let's back out the greenhouse. And then I keep it closed so the neighbor's cat can't get in there. Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to show you my little container gardening. And obviously I didn't start with all these containers. It's just one growing season. I started with like a few pots, and it did very well. So I did more pots, and you know, it works out really well. I just have to remember that I can't let them grow like, you know, other places where they just grow. I have to trim them back so they can not overgrow their pots too much. And so I just want to, oh, and these blue corns will grow tall down the house, but they produce beautiful blue corn, and I dry them out, and when they dry in wintertime, then I grind them, have blue flour to make cornmeal, to make tortillas or whatever. Okay, I just wanted to show you my container garden. If you have any questions, just leave a comment. If you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and let me know what you think about my garden. Y'all have a wonderful day. Bye.